Well, following an unprecedented ruling on presidential immunity earlier this week, the Supreme Court is now in recess until October. The SCOTUS decision gives the president the power to avoid criminal prosecution while in office. President Joe Biden called the ruling a disservice to our country.
There are virtually no limits on what the president can do. This is a fundamentally new principle, and it's a dangerous precedent, because the power of the office will no longer be constrained by the law, even including the Supreme Court of the United States.
And Democratic Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is threatening to file articles of impeachment against the Supreme Court. The last time that happened was over 200 years ago. And joining us this morning to help us sort out how these rulings will shape our country's future is constitutional law professor Natalie Gomez-Velez. Professor, good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning. Great to be here.
And first, your reaction to that Monday ruling on presidential immunity. What are your thoughts on that?
I cannot stress how disastrous that ruling is. I mean, here we are. What's tomorrow? Independence Day, right? What's a fundamental principle that, prompted us to declare independence? That we didn't want to be ruled by a king, that no one was above the law. There is no place in the Constitution that says that the president or anyone should be immune from criminal responsibility. This case does that. For the first time, with no grounding in the Constitution, basically declares that a president, if they're engaged in official acts and then acts kind of close to official acts or evidence related to official acts, is basically immune from prosecution. It is a sweeping and dangerous decision, and I think we're going to rue the day that the court came down with this decision.
And Professor, in those separations of official and unofficial acts here, many are asking, well, what can the president get away with given that separation?
And, that's a great question. It's not clear, right, at first. And you see the coverage of the case when it first came out, everyone waits for the court to issue the decision. And at first you heard people saying, well, the court rules that the president has immunity for some official acts. But as you read the decision, it kind of starts by saying it's only official acts. But as you go through, there are different categories of acts, official acts in the core of the constitutional responsibility. But then it's these other things kind of related to official acts. And then it goes even further to say, even if there's a criminal prosecution for non-official acts, for private acts, you can't use as evidence communications with official acts. And that's what's gotten this case even tangled up in the New York case, which on first impression, you'd say this should have nothing to do with a purely state case, except given what they've said about the ability to use communications that are part of the president's official acts, that's why the New York State case is opening up to sort of take a look at whether or not some of the evidence, right, could be used. Now, I don't think it should upend that case, but it's going to further delay the sentencing, even in a purely state business fraud, hush money case. But it's also going to have implications for the January 6th case, for the main case about, and remember, this was a case of obstruction, et cetera, where the former president was trying to overturn the results of a free and fair election in 2020. It doesn't get more serious than that from a constitutional perspective.
You kind of already answered the question that I was going to ask. So we saw that the judge already saying that they're going to delay the proceedings in the New York case. We're looking at the Washington case, Atlanta case. So you do think that could pause those cases?
It's going to certainly delay them, because the way that this decision is constructed is it includes not only, so you have to have this determination, and the judges in those cases, like, for example, this case itself, will have to go back to Judge Chutkan and to look through and see which of the counts in the indictment, right, touch on official acts in ways that then make it so that they can't be prosecutable. Now, that said, some won't be. Like, for example, the Supreme Court majority opinion says the conversations with the Attorney General, that's official acts that can't be charged. But they got to go through each of the counts and determine which can proceed and which can't. Now, several, I think, will be able to proceed, so the case is not completely gone, but it really impairs the ability to hold the president accountable for this was outrageous behavior. So, you think about that, and then you think about sort of the other ways in which now, without the threat of criminal responsibility for criminal acts, if you just code it with this idea that it's an official act, we risk having lawless presidents, right? No guardrails whatsoever.
And that's it, really about impairing. That's all that needs to happen with a lot of these. Let's talk about the threat from Congresswoman AOC to file articles of impeachment. How do you think that could play out?
So it's interesting, right? Because one of the real concerns is you've got a court majority, supermajority, 6-3 majority. And, I've always been one to say, it's not a political court. It's really hard to defend this court as not being a political court, especially given this ruling and some of the other rulings that have come down. The other problem is corruption. This court has been protecting official corruption, including, evidence that justices are engaged in political and other kinds of activities where other federal judges would recuse themselves, right? And so these judges have not done that. And so then you say, what's the remedy for judges kind of going rogue? Under the Constitution, the remedy is impeachment. The problem with impeachment is, as we saw with the 2 impeachments of the former president, is you need the votes, both in the House to bring the articles of impeachment, and then if you get the votes to go to impeach, then you also need the votes in the Senate to convict. So, raising the issue, I think, is important to say there's something going wrong here on the court. A remedy, or the only remedy actually in the Constitution for the justices and judges, federal judges, is impeachment. Okay. The problem with it is you need to have the votes. And you know what? An election is coming up. I mean, people need to understand how important it is to vote not only for the president, but also for Congress.
And Professor, we have to leave it right there. Thank you so much for your insight this morning and breaking it all down and helping us understand how these Supreme Court decisions are going to affect us all. And have a great 4th of July, too.
Thank you. You too.